We are streaming as well shortly. So everyone, we are now streaming. Yes, we would.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting being held at the City of Prospect on the 27th of August 2024. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land. The City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we pay our respect to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. Next, I'd like to read out the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Okay, item 2 on the agenda, on leave, there are nil. Item 3 on the agenda, apologies. There's been an apology received from Councillor Tweena Lynn, so that's noted. Item 4 on the agenda, declarations by members of a conflict of interest. Would anyone like to declare a conflict of interest? Councillor Barnett and Councillor Lewin.
Yes, just a general conflict, item 10.6, the Strategic Planning and Development Policies Committee meeting, simply because I'm a member of Prospect Local History Group Committee. I'm not a office bearer or anything, so I'll just stay on the vote.
I think Councillor Trinidad.
The business owner in Port, but I'd like to stay in the debate in Port also.
Yes. Councillor Beck.
Senior Councillor Barnett, 10.6, as member of the Prospect Local History Group, during the conflict I was studying in the retention project.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other conflicts of interest, move on to confirmation of minutes as a recommendation. There, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Barnett, would like to speak to you. Second, I will also Councillor Nelson. Anything you'd like to add, Councillor Nelson? If there's no further discussion, there's no need to sum up. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda, public question time. This is an opportunity for members of the public to throw some questions at us. It doesn't look like there's anyone here, so we'll move on to item 7, petitions. There are nil. Deputations, there are nil. Item 9 on the agenda, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Deputy Mayor Mark Creed.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question in relation to our PLP project. I've had some representation from residents, particularly in streets directly impacted or directly adjacent to the Prospect Local precinct. Is there an opportunity for us to maybe engage with those residents, mainly Kinta Avenue, I'm thinking about, in a different way, given that they're going to be probably the most directly impacted by any activity happening in the precincts? That's probably the first part of the question.
Thank you for the question, CEO.
We've actually been talking about this just this week in the steering group. Ms Pearce, would you like to take that question in terms of our broad plans and thoughts on how we'd address immediate local residents around PLP?
Sure. For me, CEO's commission, I might speak to that. As the CEO just pointed out, we had a steering group this week where a decision was taken to communicate directly with the residents directly abutting or adjoining the PLP through a letter that will go to each of the residents either late this week or first thing next week, given the proximity of those residents to PLP, with detailing the contact point for the administration's project team, and also their elected members to bring any concerns to establish an engagement channel with those particular residents. And the aim of that is, of course, to bring them along the roadmap journey.
I think I'd just add to that, we also discussed the possibility of a direct session with local residents. How that might look and feel and when it might happen, there's still a lot of thought going on around that. But certainly an initial sort of reach out to those local residents, provide them with the direct contact details of the project team and give them that sense that we do care about them and that they are a higher order stakeholder, they will get that attention fairly soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Greg. Councillor Twinley.
I have a question from the President of the aspect and it's not to work and to answer the questions.
So, yeah,
So through the Mayor, a decision was taken during the last term of Council to discontinue Prospect free Wi-Fi in town. That decision was taken for a range of reasons, primarily commercial. We had data to suggest that it actually went down for some months, and we only realised some months later. And when we went and looked at it, the data we had before it went down, we were having 3 or 4 usages a month in the network, and it's costing us some thousands of dollars a year. So there was a decision taken a couple of budgets ago to defund that as an initiative. And the one bugbear I still have is that the signage is still there. Staff are aware of my annoyance around that, and something's going to be done soon. But yeah, that's what's on
Councillor Back.
It's 2 questions, and thank you for Deputy Mayor for bringing up that question. People joining the PLP, but just in that, obviously us being a developer, just with the conflict, I'm just hoping that the correspondence actually outlines people's rights in the planning design code and when you contact with the planning team. Obviously, there would only be that requirement should a breach, the whole breach that's allowed to be there, but it would be good that that is maybe included in the correspondence.
So, yeah,
Through the Mayor, with respect, I suspect it might be a bit premature for that. We are not at a stage where there's any planning proposals on the table. We could possibly talk about the fact that there will be planning. If development is an outcome of this, which we all expect it will be in some way, shape or form, that there will be assessment and application assessment processes as part of that. But giving them the contact details of the planning team and inviting them to have those conversations now when we don't even have a thought of what might be there, I'm not sure that that's something I'd support.
Yeah, so just one more thing. Yeah, so even just a child to the planning and design group. I'm just because the thing is you're addressing them separately from separate reasons,
Yeah.
but obviously it's just good us as the developer potentially communicating with people.
I'll take it under advisement,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to make any promises. I genuinely have some concerns around that, but I'll discuss with staff what our options are, and we'll think about exactly how we frame that correspondence. We do want to hit the right tone, and we do want them to know that they are a special form of stakeholder that have, a uniquely heightened interest as opposed to other residents in the city, given their proximity to the precinct.
So just the other one, I had a comment from a resident recently in regards to our service levels around yellow line marking. My understanding is that the council had put it on hold for a period of time, but we've now said go ahead with yellow line marking, but they've received correspondence that yellow line marking is not going ahead by council. So I'm just wondering what the service level is at the moment with yellow line marking.
As far as I'm aware, we made an exception with regards to Prospect Oval, but we still have put a hold on line marking, unless I'm wrong, CEO.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
So
Yeah.
I'll take the question, if I may.
Sorry?
So I believe you're right, Councillor. I believe that line marking is back on the table. And the challenge we have now is basically we have a position in what I feel is pretty clear feedback from council that we want to maximise parking as a solution, and that's certainly that direction that's gone to staff. I think part of the challenge is we have had difficulty in servicing line marking requests in the absence of a non-staff traffic engineer, which is an ongoing challenge. Mr. Delana, can you speak further to our position in terms of line marking? Am I correct?
Actually, you are correct. At the workshop, is really for us to be able to get the school approach to do the backlog of work, and maybe some estimates with respect to the applicant involved, the processing that we engage with that individual living on site.
Thank you. Any further questions from anyone? Thank you very much for those questions. That's the case. Let's move on to item 10 on the agenda, reports for decisions. So, 10.1, investment and borrowing report. It's a recommendation on page 4. Oh, sorry, no. There's been a request to bring forward item 10.5 to it under 2025. So some of the staff who are here, that item can answer questions and then we can vote on it and then they can go home. So, I'd like to seek leave of the meeting to. Show of hands, all those okay with that? Great. So we're going to do 10.5, then we're going to go back to 10.1. So item 10.5, to it under 2025, recommendations on page 53. I might recommend suspending meeting procedures for 15 minutes if we need to, because there's a bit of discussion which might take place. All those in favour with suspending meeting procedures for 15 minutes until 7:28, so meeting procedures suspended. So obviously there's quite a bit of information contained in the report. A couple of options put forward. Would anyone like to open up the discussion regarding preferred options? I'll lead off if no one else wants to. So my preference with regards to business support grants versus something within the building here is to go for business support grants, because I think we want to bring the vibrancy and the activity to the streets. We want to encourage, well, I'd like to encourage shop owners to get on board. And I think if we do something within the building here, we run the risk of making it feel a bit exclusive, and we don't actually want people to disappear into the building. We want people on the street creating vibrancy out there. So that would definitely be my preference, to go for business support grants. There is still a bit of detail, I believe, which may follow with regards to what the business support grants will actually look like. That's still with the team, so it depends on if we select that option tonight as to the next steps from the team's perspective. But yeah, I'd have a preference for that rather than something within the building here. Anybody else? Councillor Trinidad.
Yeah, I would support the option as well, because I would prefer activations outside in the street where the less we do, the less stuff we do, the building stuff going, and yet we're living in the street and actually so activating outside spaces where the staff can bring people to the businesses on the streets and also giving the person that is willing to support the businesses and to keep people in the area after the staff finishes. So in the report says they really said that people usually stay. So having activations and encouraging people, like having some kind of promotion during that day, that morning, would probably help people want to stay afterwards rather than just leaving straight away. My other question, I guess, was on the staff workload and having to put more money into put more funding into this to support the staff. Is there other options we could consider, like removing other events, to make up for this instead of having to put additional funds? So could that be another option we can look at as well?
Well, I guess that's a question we can discuss. One thing that I will know is that with the support of the staff, we've approached SA Tourism Commission for some additional funding toward this. That's only just gone off, and we don't know. They're aware that we're going to approach them. Whether they are of a mind to give us, $5.50 or some more significant amount, we don't know at this point in time, but that's an avenue of funding that we're investigating, which would go a fair way if it was significant to finding the budget for the additional staff resources we'd have to hire in. But your point, Councillor Nguyen, was more about taking some existing workload away from the staff by removing something else that's a competing interest at the moment.
This is an option. And it's towards it.
Do you have any thoughts on that, CEO? I'd like to.
So, Mr. Shining, maybe you can come up and explain maybe from your perspective, being the one that's sort of most impacted by this, what, if anything, could we do to reduce the workload of yourself and your team to enable this to happen without the additional $25,000? What would enable that?
There's no easy answers to that. The current program coming up, you've got a significant, community event each month. Next month we've got the Irish Harp Community Fun Day, then Spring Fair the following month, which is quite a large undertaking. Probably the largest of the suite of the core events. Then you've got the Oral Powershire National Community Hall event in December by support of external Christmas activations such as through the Festive Community Activation Fund and the Neighbourhood Street Party program. And then that's followed up with obviously TDU in January and Twilight Sessions Fringe amongst a large amount of other programs and activations, which are, I guess, of a smaller scale.
Just if we were to sort of work through this, are any of those events too far advanced to stop in terms of arrangements? Like Spring Fair, for example, is it too late to stop Spring Fair theoretically?
Yeah. We've already booked all the artists, all the workshops, all the infrastructure. It's pretty much at the point of near to going to market next month, being the end of August. Twilight Sessions, you have to really be on the ball with that. So I've already actually booked all the bands for that because it bleeds into Fringe time, and so a lot of the artists that you want to get are already booked. So that process is already underway, and then it's the other events are all pretty much as locked in as they can be with the final pieces. I guess Fringe, we've literally just gone live with the subsidy, the expression of interest form. And I've commissioned graphic design for that already, so we'll start seeking interest from interested hirers and promoting that through Fringe as well.
The other events you spoke of with the park openings, are they events that could be delayed or otherwise reconsidered?
So Irish Harp is in 3 weeks. I did the letterbox drop today, so that's already been notified to the neighbourhood. The RL Pash, the invitation has obviously gone out to elected members, ELT, and members of Adelaide, but it hasn't gone out wider than that yet because it's 2.5 months away. So,
yeah, but in terms of what the sort of time you would claw back by not running that event, would that be enough?
Not for TDU. It's when we had the confidential meeting on that Saturday morning. I think I had about 24 hours to put together those range of options prior. And then obviously we hadn't signed a contract with TDU, so when it came to the point of uncovering all of the requirements and the efforts that staff have to go to deliver it, because we're hosting, so we're essentially providing the venue, and we have to facilitate that venue for ready use for the race. So there's quite a bit of liaison, planning and logistics and thought that has to go into it for the event, as you would with any venue. And because it's an outdoor venue, it's made hard. It's not a ready-made facility like Eliza, so it tends to be a lot more involved and things change as you're planning. So it needs a fair keen eye and a lot of due diligence.
Does that answer your question, Councillor? Any other questions arising from that?
Yes, I mean, because, you know, you automatically think, oh, yes, well, you know, volunteers, but then somebody's got to put the time and the effort, you know, the staff time into managing the volunteers. So it's a very vexed question. I prefer option one again because I think part of the reason, my understanding is by doing it is, you know, support businesses or any others that come in. Because I don't think we've limited it, you know, just to road businesses or others have been able to come in and set up their market and do whatever. Yeah, I'm just mindful of sort of then. I think what was really, for want of a better word, cute. We had some, no, it was the first one or not, but cornflakes, bicycles, and they were sort of put all around the place, you know. Yeah, so, yeah. So I have got nice food to them, so. But if you know, like any help or assistance, I guess, you know, I'm sure a lot of us would, we want to make it a success. You know. So I don't know if there are any other community groups that might want to be involved and assist more with the running of things. You know, sometimes they can get a bit of pocket money for their club. I don't know if we've got enough to support that, but you know, for them to help.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussions on the side of any preferences for options?
I prefer the one, the business support grant. To me, that's just far better that the businesses do have that bit of money to sort of work at creating their own sort of event in front of their business and to attract. And I think it's just a far better idea than holding something within the council. And it does, I think, look exclusive and it's really just spread amongst the business. And it's, I mean, one of the main reasons I think we're doing this is not just to attract people to prospect, but for our businesses to prosper and for us to, and for those businesses to sort of, you know, not just do well on the day, but to highlight what we have available on the street business-wise. My concern really is how much of an issue the workload is. I do support the point for person. I mean, if you're going to do this, we must have that. I don't support we knock off another event. I think we've gone through a lot of discussion in that respect, and I think what's on the table now, event-wise, is what I think most of us really wanted. I think we would have knocked something off way back. So my concern is, you know, with the point for, is that a big issue for council? Can council successfully pull off this event? Oh, sorry,
Is that a question?
Yes, it is. It is. How difficult will it be for council to deliver with the point for? Is it doable, or?
I think that's what the staff has proposed is required. Justin, would you like to?
Yeah.
Just yeah, I mean the report sets that out.
Yeah, I know, but
just if you can explain to members that I guess the thinking behind the point four and why that was.
I do support that because I think I am aware that there is a heavy load there for council to.
Yeah. So already the hours are building up just in order to deliver what we've currently got going on, in particular for me. So I guess from a personal perspective, I do all I can to ensure that it's successfully delivered. It would just be a significant amount of extra hours. So Spring Fair already really pushes to the limit, and as you get up to the final 2 weeks, you're working extra hours because you want to respond to all the communications, and there's 80 plus suppliers, so there's a lot of communications that occur. So I would anticipate the same for this, and there's lots of liaison. Every single thing has to be ran through SATC for approval, so there's a longer lead time that we need for essentially anything that we plan to do or market. It would just, if it wasn't as per the recommendation, a staff member, it would be a severe amount of overtime in order to achieve it.
So point out that right now, obviously you're aware that Ms Taylor's on leave and will be still for a while. Justin's acting manager at the moment while Katie's in the acting director's chair, so that adds further workload to him, which under normal circumstances is sustainable, but that's just another factor to consider.
Thank you. Any further questions? We haven't had much from the eastern end of the room. Just talking geographically.
I've got a wackadoodle question from a resident. Allegedly, and I think the proposed date for the TDU is on bin day around the area. And the last time the resident watched the TDU, the only thing she could focus on was, as they all went past, we had rows and rows and rows of bins out on the street. This is probably an impossible question, but is there any way of mitigating the visual pollution of bins during the...
I'm going to take that on notice. Thank you for raising it, because that's the sort of thing that I'm glad we can think about and put on our radar. Take it on notice. We'll have to think about it.
Is it too wacky?
It's not too wacky, but it's a good observation. Thank you.
I'm supportive of option 2, the business grants. I think my only comment there would be sorry? My only comment would be that we need to make the process as simple as possible for grants to be accessed by businesses.
But we're almost out of time. Actually, we are out of time. So, unless there's any last-minute points to be made, I think there's been a reasonable move towards option 1, the business support grants. So, if we can put option 1 in there, and that's what is now going to form the recommendation. We'll go back in the formal session. And there are recommendations on page 53. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nelson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Happy to move this. I think the vibe we've had since June when we announced this, I think, is the public, or the feedback at least I get from the community, is that this is a fantastic event. They've missed it the last 4 or 5 years. Very happy to see it come back. A lot of feedback is that it's been unfortunate not doing a major event, but I think bring it back on a slowly, where we do a number of other things around the precinct. I think is good. Option 1, having enough there for some business support, I think is a great option to try and drive those businesses to get involved on the day as well. So fully support this, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Twindwin. Sorry, I was...
Yeah, I want to support this as well. It's an opportunity for us. And it's also option 1 that we've decided on. It's also great for businesses to be involved. And yeah, I really encourage other businesses on the main road to be involved and participate, to promote the event, and really activate the businesses on the day. I note that we are restricted with spacing in the area, hence why I prefer option 1 to keep it outdoors and keep the people along the main street and supporting the businesses that we need.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Lightstand and Deputy Mayor Ben.
I was just going to say this is a great opportunity for Prospect to shine on the world stage.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Mark
Sure, we will. Look, I just had a couple of comments. First is just in relation to the collection of data in terms of economic spend, and we haven't yet touched on that. And I think that's a really important component of this project, and so I'm very supportive of the additional, item 3, the additional $2,000. It's a very immaterial amount, but I think if it can give us the data we need to understand the economic impact, that's really important. In years gone by, when we've done a terrific street party, we've had some fairly sophisticated economic development measures, and I think if this is going to be in our future for the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to think a bit more than just this, because I think the economic argument is going to be a very, very important one for us to make a decision on this going forward. So I just wanted to make that comment. The other comment I was going to make was there is a comment in the paper around the use of the term terrific, and I would very, very strongly advocate that we do use that term. The word terrific is almost a proper noun in prospect. If you talk to people who have been here in the last 10 years, they will know terrific. Now, they will associate that with a big street party, and I get that's not what we're doing this time. But there is some currency with that term terrific. And I think if we were to go away from that for this next event and do something else, rebrand somewhere else, and then we might want to go back to having a street party in the future, and then we might want to decide to go back to terrific. I think from a brand perspective, that becomes a bit tricky. So just my 2 cents worth, I would like to see that retained in our promotion of this, and just reset the expectations about what terrific is. It's not a street party, it's a race start, there's some activations, and we know that with race starts, as soon as that side of people disappear, they get back to work and resume their normal lives. But I do think there's a case of using that term terrific. The last thing I was going to say was there's a couple of us, I think, still around the table who have been here for terrific events, and I would just encourage, if staff need to, we might actually pick up on some of it, not just the decision making, but also the practicalities of it. In the early days, we were working on the approach to make sure that it's something on behalf of the other representatives around the table who are here for other terrific events. So, thank you. It sounds like there's an incredible amount of work happening in the next 6 months, and I would like to be in the events team in the City of Prospect. It sounds ridiculous, but also really, really exciting. So thank you to staff and directors and management for what you're doing to make Prospect that really good place to be. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Macquarie. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, thank you for the explanation as well. It's always hard with events, and those who've run in previous terms, I've never been a fan of big events. I kind of think, it can be done by others. But the reality is, if you want to host it, you have to pay for it. And I appreciate the officers' comments around they had to turn the costs around really quickly, and we've got to do security as well as the safety and those things as well. Probably just turn your attention to page 59, and I suppose it's this accumulation. So at time of drafting, it's noted that the finance team is already tracking at least $250,000 in known unfavourable BR1 operating budget adjustments. So sometimes some of these small events things get picked on, but there's actually big issues at stake, and even in the rest of this agenda there are cost increases. I'm not condoning cost increases, it's always good to get them right, but for those that like to do new shiny things, can I just remind everybody, when we come to budget time next year, can we choose what we're not going to do instead? Because otherwise we have to raise rates, and it's a really unfortunate position to be in. So though I will support this, I was looking back, I tend to research while I'm in meetings. 2014 we did the street party and I think the race start, and it was quoted then at $560,000 of extra spend. That was back then. So obviously having a street party is great, but probably just a question, what is the actual time of the race start? Because I think that's going to affect some of the spend.
Yeah, they're still starting, but it'll be around 11 a.m. 11, 10.
Yeah. Look, I'd really like to get creative about this, because I think the race is terrific. However, can we do like a Guinness World Record kind of attempt or something that's just a little bit kooky to just get people here and hanging around? It doesn't have to be a TDU thing, it can be a Prospect thing, but can we just be a bit creative about how we can keep people here a bit longer? So encouraging of the extra spend, though obviously across the whole budget, I think we just have to be really careful to watch our things. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson to sum up.
I think that's been said.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Justin. Okay, so now we are back to item 10.1, investment and borrowing report. Recommendation on page 4. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good read, so I think the author of the paper for the report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stanley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Reiterate what Councillor Barnett said.
Thank you. Any further discussion, any points that haven't already been made that people would like to make? Take it as a no. Councillor Barnett, would you like to sum up? No, easy. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 10.2, LGFA AGM 2024, appointment of voting delegate. Recommendations on page 9. Just a note, part 2 calls for the appointment of a representative and a proxy. Now, I just wanted to confirm that we don't have to have a proxy, we can. But my understanding is that if there's no one who's interested in being the proxy there, then that's not a position that we have to fill. So we need to appoint a representative. So I'll call for nominations if there's. So I've already indicated from the chair that I'm happy to nominate for this position. If we have more than one nomination, then we'll go to a secret ballot and vote. So I've nominated. Hang on. We'll fill that out first of all, then we'll move it, right? We'll have to move it first of all. Yep. Okay, cool. So is there anyone else who'd like to nominate for this position? Okay, so that's me. Would anyone like to be the proxy? Yes, I'll be going then. Okay. So we'll just change the wording there. Okay, so on the screen we have the recommendation. Do I have a mover? It was almost a dead heat. Let's go, Councillor Stanley.
I'll move it, and can I speak to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you'd be a fantastic representative, and I think if you're going to send someone to this, you send your top man.
Not sure what to make of that, Councillor Stanley, but thank you anyway. Councillor Barnett would like to speak to the motion.
I'll just second it. It doesn't need any further.
Any further discussion, any points anyone would like to make? Otherwise, I'll head back to Councillor Stanley for your summary.
I'll sum up. I just hope we get a wonderful report back. And I'm sure we will.
Sure you will. Thank you for that. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimously. Okay, item 10.3, Peppermint Gums, results of community consultation on including a toilet block. Recommendations on page 11. I am going to recommend suspending meeting procedures for 15 minutes because there is a recommendation that was issued here and we have an alternative recommendation, I think, which is going to be on the screen any minute now. So all those in favour of suspending meeting procedures for 15 minutes, show of hands please. Thank you, till 7:55. So I might give everyone a minute to read what's on the screen and then we can get into discussion.
So just to point out, members, this is an alternative option for you. The recommendation remains with no toilet block, but if members are minded to go with a toilet block, here is some wording that you could consider. So I think what we're suggesting is that this be a trigger for discussion.
Yep. Councillor Grote, then Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Dr. I would be surprised to hear you say that I'm supporting College and so I would like to see the return of College. It might be worth either way, taking the parts of not general agreement on the floor, we might want to take in parts. But look, I say it on the basis that we in the report here it talks about we're going out for consultation, subject to consultation with the toilet. So inclusion of the public toilet subject to public consultation. Well, we went out to consultation, 60% of people said yes, they would like to see a toilet there. I'm a little concerned with some of the commentary that came through that consultation in terms of how people are described and irrespective of people's behaviours, anyone is entitled to use a public toilet if they so need to. So I was a little bit concerned about that. That's not a reflection on anyone in this room, but just a reflection on some of the views that were expressed, or the way those views were expressed, I should say. But irrespective of that, I think it's a risk that we can manage where public toilets elsewhere, we manage any sort of poor behaviour that might or might not happen then. So I'm very, very supportive of there. I think the other comment I would make is the toilet, public toilet is actually incorrect. So it affects Thomas Street or the Nilesgrove Library, it's obviously the school, so there is no public toilet there. And I think the other thing is meant to be representing the KC, which is not a public toilet. It's a toilet in commercial premises that's open during the time that the commercial premises is open, and presumably for a customer of that establishment. So if you take those two out, the nearest toilet's obviously Prospect Oval and Manningham. So that's my position. I like toilets.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Yes, I concur. Again, the 65% of the respondents supported it. So, yeah, I just think we're careful that we go out to consultation, particularly because of this particular point, and then we say no. So it's potentially not only children that use the park, but the grandparents particularly. In that sort of older category, and sometimes you can't hold it till you get home. Right. So it's quite important, I think, and people with disabilities. And also, I don't think it's that we should just by de facto say, oh, there's a business there next door, so you can go and use their toilets. I don't think that's good enough for us. And so I use my park regularly with my grandchildren. Toilet box definitely necessary. Great park, good idea to include a toilet. And some of the nefarious type activities, that are referred to in here, they're already happening without a toilet being there. So, and all around the world, we have public toilets in the playground. So I don't think the concept is exactly new. So I just think for all those sorts of reasons. There was also a suggestion from staff about the basketball court relocation, so I support that as well. I think with most probably all the annoying behaviour in a lot of the parks are the boom, 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 boom of the basketball going morning and night. So I noticed that we have a sort of some soundproofing type backboard, so let's hope that works. And I think, the table tennis table makes its appearance again. I remember it was quite great fun down in the Vine Street Plaza. I just do wonder how you have to bring your own table tennis ball or what, so I don't know how that works exactly. I think before here you had to go into Banksy and get the table tennis balls. So I'm not quite sure how that works. Somebody might be able to explain. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Trindley.
collectors members to include it, and then we went out to public consultation, and we've had 65% people come to it. So if the kind of pointless of us doing public consultation and not listening to what the public wanted, should definitely support having a toilet. I think it is important for families with young children, people with disabilities and the elderly. So it's to be used by everyone. And I do also support what Deputy Mayor and Savannah said about using the KFC toilet. It is a business premises, and often people would find it uncomfortable to come in and use it. Well, you might have to pretend that they're going in there to buy something just to use the toilet. So yeah, I think it's not quite ideal. The other point was 3.A, that we're revising the basketball location, and then the lighting options. I'm just not sure when we vote on this what lighting option we're agreeing on, because there was two options for the lighting. One being at the northern western side, and then one on the basketball court relocation, and one was just at the northern western side. So I don't know which one is going to be chosen for when we vote.
So I'll ask the CEO if we can direct that to the...
Yeah, Mr. Delano, what would be the intention in terms of lighting location or the recommendation? Or do we need to provide specific direction to staff on that?
The recommendation first that the recommended light location, the recommended that is effectively the staff recommendation for option 2, which is to effectively maintain a light post in that northeastern corner of the reserve, and including associated. There'll be lighting within the reserve itself, but maintain another light post in that back corner of the reserve, the northeastern corner, and even though the basketball court's being there.
So are we getting two lighting? So
It's a single light post.
Single light post. Because under lighting to basketball court on page 17, there's 3 options.
Take option 2.
Is option 2.
So you can install a light post in the northeastern corner.
Yeah, so just the one. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor? Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. Much like Councillor Group, I'm sure no one's going to be surprised, I cannot support a public toilet. I fully support toilets where they're required. Having lived on Barker Road, pretty much right across the road from this park for five years, and using this park extensively, and knowing the sort of people that are close in those surrounds, and now living in the northern parts of Prospect Estate, and seeing what that toilet is being used for and the condition of it, it's a danger to the community. What goes on there is not just prostitution and drugs, but it's genuine danger for the community. So until we as a council come up with a way to keep those toilets safe and keep them well lit and keep them away from, to keep the bad habits away from people, I think we're just asking for more and more trouble. Following our last workshop, I actually went back and spoke to a few of my previous neighbours who were still living there, and they were distraught at the thought of having a toilet there. Obviously, I'm not sure how many of those have come back to the consultation, but I think too it's all well and good. I mean, I'm all for one for listening to public consultation. I think that's the most important job that we have. But we also have to make sure we're putting things out for public consultation. We're putting out the right information. Now, by simply having a question in there, do you support a public toilet, is one thing, but we haven't put all the facts there of what public toilets bring to the community. If people are made aware of what happens at Prospect Estate, and if people are made aware of what else happens around this reserve, I'm sure that would change their mind. I can't obviously be factual, but I'm sure if they're aware of what these sort of things happen, they will certainly change their mind and wouldn't want those undesirables hanging around. I know it's not a very nice term to use, but this is what happens in those spaces. Public toilets, I think, are great if we put one on Vine Street Plaza where it's a high traffic area. This is not a high traffic area, and I think we're asking for big trouble. So if we do put this one forward, I would like to take it in parts, because I definitely will not be supporting a toilet.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councillor?
Yeah.
No, we're not debating, we're just having a chat. Not putting you out.
Oh, no, sorry, I wasn't. We're just having a chat.
Just having a fireside chat at the moment.
Okay, alright, so it's main session.
Yep.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one, this. So going back to the original motion, so there's parts that were carried unanimously and there's parts that weren't. The design has changed. So I, for Roberts Park, I did again there this morning, and you know I note how it's used and what some of the issues are. It's a spend of 1.2 million. It's a huge amount of money. We didn't get the grant. We were unsuccessful, even though we've been very successful in other grants, which is great. And we can't get a grant for everything, but what we do need to do is really drive those funds to lift a precinct. And in recent discussions, we've actually seen how the community really values nature play and amenity with coffees. And I don't think we've really done that work. There's the empty Ampol site that could potentially be a site for residential. Have we explored that? Have we talked to the principal of the school just across the road? Have we created connections across the pedestrian to get kids to walk from there to the school? I just think for an investment of $1.2 million, I'm almost tempted to lay this on the table and maybe just flesh it out a bit more. The basketball location's changed and we haven't consulted the neighbouring properties, and we know that those neighbouring properties are multi-person use, so they're often share houses. So directly behind there's I think 2 or 3 multi-unit groupings, and then across the road. So you can imagine if someone starts playing basketball at 11 o'clock at night, then you've got a lot of cranky people living in those residences. We haven't consulted on that. So I'm not inclined to support the motion as it is. And maybe when we're in debate, just a question probably just about when works actually start, because my understanding it's not for a good time yet. So I don't think we need to rush it.
Can I just confirm with regards to the budget that proceeding with this is or isn't contingent on a significant grant?
Mr. Lerner, remind me, were we planning on finalising this design and submitting it to Laws of Grant in the future before progressing?
Through the chair, typically with any one calendar, like on active year, we do $100 million with respect to open space funding for renewal. The obviously on application of funding, we have to probably group up on the big years in respect to the business plan funding. So we've proposed strategies that we seek, and we have got a resolution in the last meeting that we seek effective towards the funding for the $2.5 million in the next funding draft, which is typically just roughly December of the year. So I think that's
So just to confirm, the proceeding with this whole project is contingent on applying for and receiving a grant, and if we apply for that grant and are successful, then we'll have to do some fancy footwork with regards to multi-year funding out of our open spaces funding.
Mr. Delaney, that's not the case. Mr. Delaney, please wondering what the timing expectations are around the process.
Through the chair, we would seek allocate funding through the 25-26 business plan for the project. Effectively, the project would be entirely funded within the 25-26 financial year if we receive grant funding. So 900,000 plus the top up for up to 900,000 allocated in the business plan in our long-term budget plan, plus a top up with grant funding to the tune of like depending on which option selected for members, and we have the eventually board was close to $1.3 million with respect to what was included. So effectively we have the capacity subject to grant funding.
So the process then, Mr. Delaney, is you apply for all the funding later this year. There'll be a decision made early next year in relation to that funding round. Were we to be successful, we would then look to execute a grant funding agreement that would give us a significant amount of time, obviously, to deliver that asset, and also give us time to include a capital allocation out of council's funds to match and obviously top up the fund sufficiently to deliver the park in 2026. That's the process.
Thank you. We've run out of time, so
Just a
it's a very, very
no,
quick one.
that's
Okay. So I'm going to put us back into session. So we're talking about item 10.3. Would anyone like to move a recommendation? Deputy Mayor Mark Reid.
Having moved recommendation and public toilet is included.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
We've just had some informal debate on this, but just to say, for the record, I'm very, very supportive of the toilet being there. I think we manage a number of public toilets across the city now, and sometimes we do have behaviour that we wouldn't accept as acceptable, and we deal with that, and I can't see why this would be any different. This is a well-used, well-loved upgrade. We've been talking about this for some time. It sounds like we've got a little bit more time to go before something happens, and I accept that. But I think having the toilet in there makes a lot of sense. Very, very excited about the table tennis coming back. The table tennis table, I should say. It was a much loved part of Vine Street Plaza for a long time, and I didn't realise we still had it, so I was really pleased to hear that we still do have it somewhere. And I think repurposing and having it as a piece of public art is really, really clever, and that you can combine with that toilet art piece as well. It's really good as well. The last thing I was going to comment on is the the basketball court still concerns me a little bit, because it is that thump, thump, thump. Or I think as Councillor Barnett described it, boom, boom, boom. I'm not sure if it's a thump or a boom, but it's certainly a noise. Hopefully the noise cancelling surface will help us not have that so much of an issue. Another one we're just going to manage going forward. So fallout are some there to take it in parts. It sounds like there will be people voting for and against the toilet, which is probably to be expected, but if we can take it in parts, that can be taken in parts. Otherwise, sort of support it. I think the toilet's a good idea.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Mark Stanton, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will briefly. I'm also in support of the toilet. There's a saying, I think it pertains to movies, but it's equally good for parks, that the mind can only absorb what the bladder can endure. So I think there is a point where you're at the park with your kids, and you don't want to have to say, look, we've got to go home because we've just got to go to the toilet. You'd rather be there with your kids as long as the sun's shining and they want to play. I would hate for activity to be limited by the duration of a bladder, whether it be a child or an elderly grandparent. I think anything that activates our parks and makes people come towards our parks rather than going to the helicopter park in North Adelaide or another park. I know for a fact when our kids were growing up, my wife would go with the mums group, and they would explore the different parks from South Parklands through to North Adelaide, through to Norwood, and they would go to the parks that had a toilet, because that was just logic. So if we can activate a park and make it the park that other families from other districts come to just by putting a toilet in it, let's go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't been raised? Councillor Nelson.
It's good. Obviously, we discussed a lot of it during the open, what do we call that?
Fireside chat.
Sure. And obviously, taking into consideration Councillor Stanton's points too, I think it is a good point. But I'd say, having lived in this park, it's not a destination park, and I think that's the fact we have to live with. It's not our choice, but this isn't a destination park. People don't come from miles around to go to this park. If you're going to come from miles around, you're going to go to Memorial Gardens. You're going to go to other playgrounds like Irish Harp, where there's a lot more play equipment and everything else. This is a park that's only used by the surrounding neighbours. 250 metres away, you've got Percy Street Reserve. 300 metres away, you've got Memorial Gardens Reserve. 400 metres away, you've got Nunawerra. So there's a number of other parks around. This park is only used by the surrounding neighbours. And as I say, I'm just taking on my own back, but the surrounding neighbours do not want a toilet. And I think that's what we have to listen to. Yes, we've got community feedback there that states that, but we don't know where that's come from. That could have come from someone in Narsworth or someone wherever it is. I think, we've got to look at these things, and there's a number of other public toilets around, and as Deputy Mayor Grigg said, we do have a number of public toilets, but most of those are in high traffic areas where they can be monitored and they can be safe. This is not a high traffic area, and I don't believe this will be safe.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Well, I'm hoping as we do some wonderful work in our parks and all that they do become more used and more destinations. And I think seeing what we've done with others and feedback from other people, I don't think we should perhaps try and restrain to what has been in the past. I think this is part of the future of what we're doing, and we should be trying to do more. If we want schools to come and use it, first thing I know, when I was a teacher and you're planning a school excursion, you look where there's a toilet. And also, if we're improving it and we're putting in more activities and there was the barbecue sort of area and things like that, where people expect to come and they expect to have, you know, their food and their drink and all that sort of type of thing. So, you know, I look forward if we're going to be doing this. Well, you know, we should be trying to open it up and not just keep it as a little boring part with hardly anybody coming in.
Councillor Beck.
It is a neighbourhood park that actually had space and demonstrates a lot of damage. Delivery vehicles ramping the curb and they've destroyed all the arts paths, which is a real shame because it's actually to address that. The location of the basketball court hasn't been consulted, and I think I would like a toilet if we had more passive surveillance. And passive surveillance comes by being busy. And being busy comes by having a coffee shop. So look at the Charles Green Reserve is just amazing. So, you know, 2 sporting clubs, you've got Franklin Bagels, you've got an old box on the other side. It's used by all the neighbouring residents, and it was designed that way. It was master planned, it was precinct planned, and because that we get maximum use out of it. Because you don't have that passive surveillance, this is the concern, and I echo Councillor Wilson's concern. I'd rather take a breath and just give ourselves another couple of months to say, could we liaise with SAPOL and see if we can get a better outcome? Are there things that we could do that increase the usage or visibility? But I just can't support it in its current form. Yeah, so if we take it in parts, I won't be supporting changes. I'd prefer to leave it on the table just to flush it out of the person.
Councillor Hall.
I have some concerns about the toilet too. It's always nice having a toilet, but I think there are. I wonder whether the council's previously looked at data which shows, you know, types of toilets where there's risks. I mean, I'm not sure a workshop. I'm not sure if we've had a workshop, but it's just toilets. But I think it's something that we should actually look into at some stage. I don't think I can support this one. I do think it's just a small local park. I think when people make plans to go somewhere for 2-3 hours, I know it's been the case with me when my children were younger, I'd actually pick a larger park with more facilities, more benches, and you find those are the parks where others have also come to. There's a lot of use of the toilets, and I think, you know, I don't mind council spending more on those toilets that are more in use in bigger parks, whereas, you know, I'm not too sure exactly the design for this toilet. I don't think the people going there are there for 2-3 hours. I think it's often kids on bikes who come through, or just the local residents. So I prefer not to have a toilet there. Regarding the basketball courts, the moving of the courts, I don't live too far from the skate park there, and occasionally go for walks fairly late. And I'm not sure if there's too many people I see there bouncing balls around late at night. Very occasionally you will see someone, but so I don't really have an issue with that. It's really the toilets, and I would like at some stage that we have kind of short workshop and sort of look into design of toilets, location, and the data associated with safety and the issues that toilets can bring.
Thank you. I think that's almost everybody. From the chair, I think a couple of things. The passive surveillance point that Councillor Backen made is a good one, and it's a bit of chicken and egg. It's a bit of catch-22. If we bring more people there, then there's better passive surveillance, what brings more people to a location like that. So we can't solve that question or answer that at the moment, but it is a good point. If the toilet is well lit, we know that lighting is a great deterrent for people looking to get up to no good. So I'm hoping that the toilet area is going to be well lit, which is not going to guarantee that things won't go on there, but it will increase the chances of it. So I just want to make those couple of quick points. If there's nothing else around the table, I'll go back to Deputy Mayor Greg to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. You almost took my something up out of my mouth. But, I just want to say a couple of things. One is, when we considered this back in March this year, we had approved unanimously to go to consultation at the toilet. So it was a unanimous decision on this council to go back and say, subject to consultation, we want to talk to people about having a toilet. So just in terms of that context. I think in terms of us providing some commentary about usage of the park, bear in mind that no one actually lives right near the park anymore. Recognising Councillor Nelson was living close to it a couple of years ago. But maybe people aren't there for long periods of time because they've got kids who go to the toilet, so they only do stay short periods of time. So I think build it and they will come. This is one of those examples. If we build it, hopefully we do make it a park that people come. It is a bit more of a destination. I think if we take the attitude of people don't go there or it's only used by local residents, so we're not going to do anything, then I'd say why we're spending $1 million on it here. I think we have our vision should be bigger and broader than that to say we want to improve amenity in our parks, we want to encourage more people to come in. And as a result of that, we've made an investment in parks and gardens. I think it's a much loved park at the moment, probably because of the Flying Fox. It's the only Flying Fox we've got in the city. I know my kids loved it. Where's that one?
Orange Park.
Oh, true. It's only one of 2 Flying Foxes we have in the city, so therefore it's very important. But look, I think it is a popular park because of that, and I think the toilet is just an important part of what we want to do there. The other point I was just going to make is the redaction on page 38 hasn't quite worked, so it might be worth trying to improve that redaction on page 38, just for future or for historical purposes more than anything else. And that's just the letter that went to Knaresborough Primary School. So I think to Councillor Backer's point around having engaged with the school, I think that was. Look, I support it. I'll obviously be supporting recommendations to have a toilet. I commend the motions, all of them, to the council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we are going to take it in parts. So there's 5 parts that we're going to vote on. If we just scroll up a little bit more so we can see them all. Okay. Yeah. So parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm not going to go 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D. That's going to be one vote. So let's get going on this. Part 1, all those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
It's like snap.
It was.
It was.
I was hearing myself in echo.
Division, so if you voted against, then can you please stand for the record? Thank you. Okay, part 3, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
I'll wait for Jason.
What's going to be the same? I didn't bother.
Division?
Voted against, please. So it's 4. I'm sorry, against. This is against.
We'll fill that in later.
Okay, part 4, all those in favour? All those against? Motion carried.
Division.
And drilled.
Good exercise.
Fitness ones.
Ooh.
And finally, part 5.
Might as well stay standing.
Part 5, all those in favour? All those against? Motion carried.
Vision.
If you voted against, please stand to have your name recorded. Sharing it around. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of 10.3.
It's a joint division.
Hold on, haven't we? Yeah. Item 10.4, adding of reserves Prospect Corner 250B Churchill Road. Recommendations on page 49. Do I have a mover? Councillor Twindleman would like to speak to the motion.
First Nations group, and I'm not going to spoil the result and Mindy. And yeah, you can see that that's going to be the largest reserve in the centre. So I think that's great. And other names as well. Sally and Fez. So yeah, considering they're very within by First Nations, the Boomer Player group are the others for these recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett would like to speak to the motion.
Yes, I'm really pleased that we've had these suggestions come to us. Seems to fit in with the rest of what we've been having in the previous reports and that on this whole area. Support.
Thank you. Any further discussion, any points that have been raised yet? Councillor Nelson.
Just a quick one. I should have actually got in first, but I actually like the idea that Council put forward in their recommendations, or not the recommendations, maybe the notes, where I think this is another one where they've come in the last minute to say, hey, quickly approve this. We just haven't had sufficient time to look back and say, is this what people want? I would recommend, as per the note there, I can't find it now, but Council did sort of put a note there that if we were minded to let this lapse and then arrange a workshop for us to openly to discuss it and have a look at whether these part names are suitable, whether they're granted, I think that would make more sense. We're not in a major rush for this one. So I'd actually be recommending that we allow this item to lapse and arrange a workshop.
So we need to go through the process of putting it to the vote first of all. Any further discussion, any points yet to be made that people would like to make? If not, I'll go back to Councillor Twindleman to sum up.
Yeah, like I said, like these were consulted by a number of previous First Nations groups. So that's why they were recommended and suggested from the Wednesday and brought forward to us. So I respect the recommendations that they've made to Women USA and to us, so that's why I support them for them.
Thank you. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Addition? Okay, if you voted against that motion, please.
Standing up tonight.
We'll vote yes.
Give me a motion I can vote for. No, motion first.
Thank you, everybody. Are you ready, gentlemen? Okay, we've done 10.5, so we're on to 10.6. Minutes of the Strategic Planning and Development Policies Committee meeting held on 19th August 2024. Recommendations on page 61. Do I have a mover? behalf of Mervyn. Councillor Barnett will try to speak to the motion.
Yes, we were at the Strategic Planning and Policies Committee meeting, endorsed this, and so I encourage you to set both the minutes and that recommendation, and also the historic themes. I think the authors of the report have done an excellent job in presenting that to us, and it's absolutely necessary for us to have this so that we can then go forward with getting some action on with our representative sections and so forth. So a lot of time and energy has gone into getting to this state, so I commend it to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nelson, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think this document, every time I read it, I learn something new about Prospect. It's a magnificent product that's actually been formed. I think we went through a number of times. We actually covered this in one of our workshops, and I know that was very well taken. All the notes that were made and all the updates that were recommended have all been included now in the new document. I think it's a fantastic document.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't already been made? Briefly from the chair, I think this is a great decision if it gets up, and it's a bit of a foundation building exercise which will have long-lasting ramifications for the City of Prospect. The historic themes document was really well put together, and I've lived around Prospect for 723 years, and I learned quite a bit of new stuff from reading that document. So I would be supporting this one if I was called upon to vote. I don't think I'm going to be voting. Let's head back to Councillor Barnett to sum up.
I think hopefully that everybody's in favour. So yes, even I learned a few other things in there too. When you see the whole document, you see it all brought together. So so just encourage people to support it.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 11, general business of an urgent item. So if anyone's got any urgent items they would like to raise, now is the time. I believe I am the adjudicator of urgency, so you'll have to put past the math test. Does anyone have any urgent items they'd like to raise? Great. Okay, moving on to item 12. So item 12, reports for information. Information reports can be resolved en bloc. Would anybody like to pull out item 12.1? Anyone like to pull out item 12.2? Would anyone like to pull out item 12.3? Would anyone like to pull out item 12.4? Councillor Back. Okay, we'll put that one aside for a minute. Let's vote on items 12.1. We're going to move it, obviously, to get it on the floor. Do I vote? So we're looking at 12.1, 12.2 and 12.3 on block. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barnett would like to speak to the motion.
No, it's on that.
Oh, so we don't?
Yeah, we don't talk to it.
So we just vote. Sorry about that. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour?
I need a seconder.
Second.
Sorry. Let's start again. Councillor Barnett moving. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Standen. All those in favour? Against? So we'll carry unanimously. Item 12.4, Councillor Backer, your reason for pulling it out?
Partly because I asked for it. Going to be gracious and pull it out. Look, I just want to pull it out to say thank you very much to staff and appreciate the really it's come into it. I think it expressed on one of the occasions that we didn't have a sort of review of service levels since about 2015, 2016. And we can't possibly put in everything. We do a lot, but it's actually a really good baseline to say, what are we doing too much of? What should we be doing more of? And what kind of things can we push and pull? Especially when we get pushback from residents to say, we're not doing enough. And they say, well, this is all we're doing. What would you like us not to do? Because quite often when we get a department of sort of city works and presentation, people don't really understand what that means. But because we've actually detailed it, so some of the things we do, we can kind of understand where those pressure points are, especially if we combine that with data from maybe our CRM. And I know that's a big body of work that maybe would like to be funded in the next budget. And certainly I'd like to see that. So obviously if we match the services we're doing with the CRMs that we get coming in, we can say, oh, there's a bit of a heat map issue here. Maybe we need to target that area. So this is one of the, I suppose, cornerstones of that work. And I think partnering that up with the CRMs would be great. So it's really just to acknowledge all the effort that's gone into it. I understand there's going to be a workshop coming up. Hopefully I can be here because I'm going to be away next month. But if I can't, I'm sure it will be fabulous. Yeah, I really appreciate the report and I can try to handle it.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
Again, I thank Councillor DeBacker for bringing this to us, and also I thank the staff because I can sense the frustration when there have been a range of challenges in putting it together. It's a fantastic piece of work, and I could only wish that more of our residents and ratepayers could get to see this and appreciate the immense amount of work that council does. It's not just roads, rates and rubbish. I think, as you can see from the broad information that's provided in this, so well done. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion points, anything that hasn't already been raised? If not, I'll head back to Councillor DeBacker to sum up. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to item 13, council member reports and briefings. Has been a report received from Councillor Nelson and I believe Councillor Barnett and Councillor DeBacker. It's being included in the minutes. Thank you for that. Item 14, motions on notice. So 14.1, notice of motion, long-term parking enforcement, Councillor DeBacker. Motion on page 490. Councillor DeBacker, over to you.
I won't speak to this too much, but it's really just an advocacy piece. We've heard from a few residents recently in regards to abandoned vehicles. This is just seeking clarification and some direction in regards to the status with vehicles being unregistered. My understanding that any member of the public can access that information through EasyReg, and that helps with the flow chart as to do your contact say what you don't need. But I think this advocacy piece is just to say, can we get a better system and have better powers to enforce it? So I choose support motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I have residents that they seem to be unclear, and it is unclear to the ordinary type of person in the street, so to speak. I can put it that way. You see a car that's been there for months and months and months and months, almost gathering spider webs, and yet if it's registered, there appears to be, and it's not gradually parking sort of law, and it can just stay there and stay. I just think things could be perhaps looked at. I know this is I think it's a national law. I may be corrected on that, but I just think, particularly for us, like say inner city suburbs, and particularly as we're noticing over the years in Prospect, or the city of Prospect, just becoming less easier to find parks. It's the pain of some residents. They're get quite exasperated about this. So I think even when you do read through a lot of all the regulations and all that, it's still clear as mud. Unless you're it's part of your remit as a staff person. So I think it'd be good just to have, if we don't raise these things, well then they just keep on being a mystery to most of us. So that would be quite good, I think, to have.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't been raised? Councillor,
just briefly, I've got to make yes, okay, for that, go to the waste. But there's clearly a gap between, or there's evidently a gap between police authority and council authority, and that was made evident with the last SAPOL update we had here 3 weeks ago. And it was interesting. Following that, I actually spoke to a good friend of mine who's fairly high up in SAPOL, and he said a lot of these things are dependent on the attitude of the police officer. And I gave some examples to him about comparing the questions we asked the officers that were so gladly gave us their time here, and they said, look, we wouldn't do anything, it was education, we'd go and talk to the owners, we'd find out where it was. He said, no, I'd give him a fine, I'd get a tow. So it clearly depends on the actual police officer. So I think to have this sort of motion, I think I'd endorse this 100%, because it's going to give, hopefully, if we can get these powers that be to give us some clarity about who has the authority. If there's no authority there, then to provide that authority by the Act. So support this 100%.
Any discussion? Just briefly from the Chair, I had a discussion with some of the staff about this, and it looks like it is a reasonable sized problem. It's not something that happens once every 6 months. It happens, abandoned vehicles or potentially abandoned vehicles are reported on a very regular basis. So if we can make some headway with regards to making this clearer for our team to deal with, then I think that's a good outcome. Councillor Back, would you like to sum up? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unanimously. Item 14.2, notice of motion, placemaking workshop, Councillor Tobacco, on page 492. Over to you, Councillor Tobacco.
Yeah, thank you for this one. Look, this came about in regards to, I suppose, over the last 6-7 years, some of the Main Street conferences that I've been to and some of the work we've done around placemaking in the city of Prospect. I've asked the Mayor to indulge me. I've done a bit of a prezzo, taken a leaf out of Mark Standing's book and doing something visual. So I've just put together a few thoughts. I'll read the motion and then I'll do the presentation. So basically, I'm requesting administration hold a workshop, and so I've changed, to be held by January 31st in advance of the 25-26 budget deliberations, to enable consideration of options for the 2025-26 capital budget. And I'll go into the prezzo and it's online. There we go. So if we can do the next page. Okay, so this is our current endorsed economic development growth strategy. So key in this is determining a rolling program of precinct upgrades and development of public realm in line with the long-term financial plan that enhance placemaking opportunities and improve public amenity. So we've already got it endorsed as a function. We don't have a specific placemaking person on staff. However, we do, throughout the whole team, do placemaking things. But we don't really have it defined anywhere what we think placemaking is. So I'm going to go to the next slide, please. So we've got the City of Charleston. They're very clear in what they think of placemaking, empowering communities to shape their own places, with a local sense of ownership, and strong communities. So they've got a framework, so that was 2018, and obviously they've been doing referendum cities. The next slide, please. Our neighbours, other neighbours of Port Adelaide Enfield, they've got a placemaking strategy, talking about communities thriving, where people want to be. Now, all these words sound quite familiar because we're actually doing placemaking as part of the PLP. But I just thought it might be nice to kind of structure it So if we go to the next slide, please. And I think really importantly is tying it back to the community plan. So for us at Prospect, innovation always at the heart of council driving leadership, resilience, efficiencies and opportunities. And I see placemaking as a better way of doing business and a better way of measuring capital spends. Next slide, please. And luckily, the LGA has just released, and this is free to download, a placemaking indicators and benchmark study in partnership with UniSA. I actually spoke to the author of this report, and she's presenting at the Main Street SA, so if anyone's going to the conference next month, they'll be able to see her. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's another document that we can use. So what I'm trying to indicate, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, we don't have to get a consultant in to write something for us, information's already out there. Next slide, please. And that previous report is based on Project for Public Spaces, lots of little words there, but basically it's all those things coming together to make great places where people want to be. And that could be for health, it could be for sport, it could be for economy. Okay, next slide please. So basically from the workshop, what is placemaking, a better way to plan and assess capital projects, looking at public and private, and councillors facilitator. Next slide please. Next one please. Next one please. Next one please. This is just some examples. Next one please. Next one please. Next one please. Okay, I just wanted to get to this one. I see it as a Venn diagram. It's the overlap between what we already do, and I see it as a triple bottom line on investment. So if you look at governance as kind of surrounding that, this is a way we can optimise getting benefit and value for the ratepayer for capital investment and creating great places. So I'd encourage you to support placemaking workshop as part of our next few months. And that's all I'm going to say.
Just in time for
Thank you.
do I have a second to Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I certainly do. As Councillor Baker said, I mean, we're really already sort of doing this in. I'm just thinking of with our Davis Street, improving the area, Devonport Terrace, a lot of our work that's gone on in our parks, and now we come up with our lifestyle precinct, and this is basically what we are doing with our consultation, with our trying to get the ideas, with our all that sort of type of thing. One of our, I think it was one of our last night's first meeting of our community reference group mentioned placemaking. So I think we could badge it in as part of our lifestyle precinct, like activities. I think it's a fairly plain, simple term, placemaking, or what are we doing to make places better, improve places, capture our imagination. I mean, that's all what we're starting to ask people in our lifestyle precinct. So I think it may be not just a workshop for us, but it could be a workshop for the two other groups. Connect with our lifestyle precinct activities as well, just as a suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion? Any things that people would like to raise? From the Chair, I'd like to thank Councillor Back for bringing this motion to this meeting, and I think that we have a great opportunity with the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct to live and breathe how placemaking can benefit in the design of that area. So I look forward to that workshop. Councillor Baker, would you like to sum up?
No, just say thank you for listening, and it will give a really good, and we did this when we did this building, it's almost like a decision-making matrix. So when you have all these things, it makes a good place. So it might actually aid in some of the decision making as part of the ELP process. So I'd encourage you to support the motion as we approach the next budget deliberations.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Item 14.3. Notice of motion, new standing item on council meeting agenda. Councillor Baker, over to you again, Councillor Baker.
Yes, thank you very much. So we get this in front of me. So I've lost my place now. Yep, got it. So so I've just changed the wording. So just in regards to this motion, I know a couple of months ago the deputy mayor stepped into the chair and the mayor was away, and the CEO had the opportunity to update the council on, I think it was the mayor's and the CEO's meeting, and that was a really good opportunity for the CEO to tell us what we've been doing. And I just noticed that in our report we don't actually have a place where the CEO can talk to what you've been doing during the month. And I think it's really valuable. So I've often mentioned that the CEO update was excellent. It was full of lots of great information. And I noticed that the CEO in the response had mentioned that we already have that facility to be able to ask for some of that information to be put in the public realm. But I know in my time in this term, and I don't know if anyone else in this term has actually asked of anything to come up. So that system might not working. So I think it just gives us a spot in the meeting procedures where we can actually just have some of that great information talked about. I've just circled around an example from Streaky Bay. I don't know if I do it to ELTs, my apologies. But basically it's just a CEO summary report, just to change the wording from the update, because the CEO update, for the benefit of people who are listening, is an internal report that's circulated to elected members. But it's because elected members aren't clear on what we can put out public or private, we can't circulate it. So a CEO summary report is just an opportunity for the CEO maybe to, a bit like the mayor's report, meetings that you've had, and potentially some of the items from that CEO update to be brought up. But it would just be an information report. It doesn't necessarily have to be filled out every time. So so that would be starting from next month. Obviously there's lots of things coming to us, even things like the changes to the state planning code with the future living code amendment. There's some interesting correspondence coming through at the moment, and I think getting some of that out to the public and letting people know would be great. So so I'd be interested in others' thoughts or change of wording or whatever.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I second this. I'll admit I was reluctant in its earlier wording. I had read this a few times and had some concerns with the original motion. In the new wording, I think this makes a lot of sense. In any private business or public business, there's always a CEO report in a board meeting. I think that allows the board to see what the CEO's activities. It allows, in these sort of positions, it allows the public to see what the CEO's been up to. That the CEO is not just a figurehead that sits there. It's like, well, he's busy. He's going to these meetings. He's doing these activities. And I think it gives the CEO an opportunity to give a public update to what's happening around the council, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pros, the cons. So I think this is actually a very good initiative. Most other councils in SA do it. As I say, most, if not all, private companies and public companies provide CEO reports. So I think a summary report is very similar to what the mayor does and what the elected members do. I certainly take it on myself to put forward an activity report every single month. I think that our community deserve to know what we're up to. So I think this is a natural next step, and I applaud Councillor Baker for putting it forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll start with Deputy Member Group and Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Baker, for putting this up. I'm a little troubled by it, and there are probably two things for me. One is that we've got a review of our meeting procedures coming up very soon, and I would have thought this would be where that would be debated out, because that's probably, I presume, the agenda's going to be part of. In fact, I'll ask this as a question: is the agenda going to be part of the meeting procedures review. So, yeah.
See ya.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
That's right. Sorry, that's slow because I can see you were typing. In terms of our upcoming review of meeting procedures, would that include the agenda? Reviewing what's on the agenda?
Andrew, can you answer that question? I believe the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah, the intention is to have a look at some of the structure of the agenda itself as well as the procedures within the meeting.
So on that basis, this conversation would better fit within the holistic conversation about what the agenda is going to look like. So I certainly understand the intent. I would probably, not dissimilar to Councillor Nelson, I'd do a similar thing to my board. I think we're not a board and we're not a company, so we are a little bit different. But in terms of workload for CEO, whether it would be a reasonable expectation to have the CEO update and report to council, I would say there's probably one too many in terms of workload for CEO. That's not my issue, that's the CEO's issue, but it just feels to me that's a bit of overkill if we have both. I think a better way would be to understand what the CEO report can be released publicly and what can't. But I stand back on process though. I think this is making a decision which we're going to revisit anyway, presumably in the next 2 or 3 months around the meeting procedures review. I'd rather see that this conversation cover that, because there's probably a whole lot of other things we could talk about, and it might be there that we can have a more fulsome debate than, you know, this isn't a workshop, this is we're going to 5 minutes, and that's sort of get. So I think I've just talked myself into probably not supporting it, with a division coming on maybe, but I feel I won't support it just on the basis that I think it's better prosecuted in that other process, although I think the intent is the same. I don't have a problem with the intent.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Group. Councillor
Yes, I'm thinking now that it does really sit better in with our workshop on meeting procedures. Yeah, I think given the streaky day example, I'll just pull that up and have a look at it. I think that, yeah, I think it's I mean, it'd be good to see some of that more visible information for the public. I get that. I wouldn't want replication to be in the excellent CEO reports that we get internally. I could see that there is way, you know, that if there's, like for our eyes only stuff in the CEO's current report, well, I think that could say, but then, you know, if we wanted to praise up something, you know, great that the staff's done, or the council has got some, you know, grant or got, you know, some award or something or other, well, that could be more visible being done into the council agenda format. So, you know, I see there are pluses and minuses. I certainly wouldn't want there to be, you know, any duplication or any sort of extra work on the CEO's already busy life here in council. But I think that's the sort of discussion that we should be having at the workshop. So that's what, you know, where I would prefer to have it. So I mean, it's a possibility that the mover might wish to withdraw the motion, given that, you know, we're going to be having the meeting procedures workshop, but it's up to the mover, of course.
Thank you, Councillor Trinity.
It's similar to just like in the report and our reports of, you know, what interactions you've had. I think it's great for us to see this and for the community to see, and then for us to maybe, you know, ask some questions about any interactions we've had. I don't think it's too much work. Maybe just pick from the calendar. But yeah, I appreciate the CEO update and understanding that these two, at first I thought it would be similar to a CEO update, but I can see that these are two quite different things. It's just a list of the meetings we may have had. And yeah, I find that would be useful to see. But also, I do agree that we should wait until the workshop and discuss it then, rather than making this decision tonight.
I'm all for having a workshop before we vote on anything. I think it needs further discussion, and I think that's the proper forum for discussion on the presenter and sort of agenda. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Stanton.
Yeah, thank you for Councillor Backer for bringing this to us. Interestingly enough, the little attachment that was just sent to us to help us make a decision has actually turned my decision away from supporting it. The document we've just been sent is absolutely. I'm still trying to scroll through the 60 pages of 100. I'm up to page 60 of 160. No, I'm saying this. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm scrolling down. Look, I think it's a duplication of work that we probably don't need from the CEO. I'd rather see him turn his attentions to other things. And I think we could probably, if we do want to discuss this, we can have more robust discussion when we talk about meeting procedures later. As much as I thank the elected member for bringing this up, I don't think I can support it.
Thank you. Has the other question, Councillor?
I just want to clarify what you said before. It was just the list, not the whole report. But I would like a list of the things that the CEO has attended, but not the full report. That's what I meant, not the full report.
From the chair, I was quite against this motion in its first iteration. I thought that was too burdensome on the CEO, particularly reporting on progress against KPIs. I don't see any meaningful progress being made against KPIs on a monthly basis necessarily, so I'm still unsure about this. I love the CEO update. I think that provides us with all the information we want. The CEO is always very open to meeting personally, taking phone calls and responding to emails. So he'll never let anyone be unaware of what's going on. Always happy to answer questions with perfect clarity. And I personally don't really see a need for this, but I'm happy for it to go to a workshop and discuss it further then. Heading back to Councillor DeBacker to sum up.
Yeah, look, I'll be happy to withdraw the motion, but I think it's generated some really good debate, which was kind of the intent. So I totally understand members' request to have it as part of the workshop. But I think, it's such good information in that CEO report, and we can't discern what we can circulate and what we cannot. So, yeah, it might just be something to consider as part of the meeting procedures. So,
thank you, Councillor Baker, for bringing it to our attention. Okay, moving on then to item 15, questions with notice. There are no questions with notice. And we'll now move on to item 16, confidential items. We'll just wait for the eye in the sky to be turned off.